Welcome strategy gamers to this tutorial series of Dominion 6 Rise of the Pantocrator. My name is DasTactic. Welcome to the channel. Welcome to the series. I've did an introduction video to sort of explain how you can, if you're wanting to, get into the game extremely quickly. But we're now going to start to take a deeper dive into the actual settings and the parameters around setting up a game. The game that you want to be playing with Dominion 6. I'm going to be gearing this as a single player, but I did talk a little bit about the incredible multiplayer network that the game actually has available, and really very, very welcoming for new players. This is going to be a series dedicated more towards beginning or starting players who haven't really got a thorough understanding of the game. So I want to keep it. I want to give you tools and techniques to make it simpler to actually get into the game itself. So what we're going to be doing through here is we are going to start by creating a new world. And with this one through here, we're just going to go and click on Create World. And this will then bring up the various map settings. Now, the way this works is that you essentially, whatever number of players you have, when you're building a random map, you actually can then go through and say, okay, look, I only want to have 10 provinces allocated per player. So if you've got 10 players, there'll basically be about 100 provinces essentially on the map. If you've got 5 players, it'll be about 50. Medium, which is the default, is 15 provinces per player. Large is 20 provinces per player. 15 is good if you're a beginning player or a new player. 15 is fairly comfortable because you don't really want to be having units come right next to your capital. So you don't want to have the enemy coming right into what's called your cap circle. The cap circle are the provinces around your capital. So 15 gives you a little bit extra just for you to be able to expand into. Like you may have like 2 circles out from your capital, maybe 3, that you can sort of almost consider to be your territory. Anyway, I'll talk about this in depth when we get into the actual game itself. The loaded map is one that you can go back in and actually then go and load in a map from if you've got like maps in through here. I'm assuming by the time the game launches, because I'm actually recording this a month out, that there will be some sample maps in there. And I want to talk about the maps because there's some really exciting things that have come through with Dominion 6 that haven't been here in previous versions. The first one we see through here is the main world layouts. Now, previously, we only had this standard, completely random map that we could then go and choose in-game to do like this. But we now actually have things like a donut world where we can actually go and select a circle world in through here. We've got a small lakes, 3 or more small lakes, where there's going to be sort of like some water provinces sort of spattered around a land-based area. But what this will then do is it'll create choke points, which will be really quite interesting. This one here is a 1C in the middle, so you've ended up sort of got like a massive lake in the middle with land around the outside edge. This one here is 2 Cs, same sort of deal. This one is a twirling C, which sort of then spirals around a little bit again to give more choke points. So you're going to get choke points between the Cs. Back and through this side, we've got a no man's land, so you can only start on the east and west edges. If you are going to choose this type of start, where you can only start on the east and west edges, I would suggest that you turn the east-west wraparound off. So you just flick that one off. That means that you can actually enable a north-south wraparound if you're wanting to. But in this one, I haven't tried this one, but I'm guessing that would be better to have that one turned off. This one here is interesting as well. This is a forbidden center of the map, so you can't actually play in the center. And similarly, I would turn off both the wraparounds in this instance. I'll talk about what they actually are. In fact, I'll talk about it now. What they are is it sort of creates like a tiled map where if you're starting over here, if you've got the east-west turned on, you can then just flick across, walk this way, and you'll end up on this side of the map, and vice versa. You're on this side, walk this way, you end up on this side of the map. So that's the way that the east-west wraparound, and north-south is just in the north-south direction to do exactly the same sort of thing. So if you've got like a center area through here with people spawning around, you really don't want to have wraparounds. But that way you'll have an area in the middle for you all to compete with, but you'll be a little bit closer to each other on the outer edges. Again, quite an interesting sort of, like we haven't had this before. Now, the next big thing that's actually come with the game, and I think for our game, I might actually play with this one. Not for any great reason. I think I'll just will. It's because I like the idea of it. Maybe we just play random. let's just play random. I think and I'll keep the east-west wraparound going with this particular one as well. So if we play, this is the default setting for the game. I think I'll just play defaults, but explain what's going on to sort of show you some more depth as what's going on. Now, you'll notice if you've played previous versions of the game, first of all, you won't have this choice. You will have this choice, but not this choice of all the different sorts of layouts. You also won't have an underground layout because there never has been an actual underground in the game before. There has been caverns which emulate the underground, but they've been positioned on the surface, on the main world. And so previously, when you did actually have like an underground area, it was just an area of the map, of the one layer of map that was just designated as being underground, and so it took up space. It was the inference was that there was always big mountains on top of it, and so you're sort of going into a place like Moriah, I guess, if you're familiar with Lord of the Rings. So this is sort of how this one worked. What now happens is with the underground layout, this is actually a whole other plane of existence, which is first time in Dominions that they've actually done this. Their other game, which is Conquest of Elysium, has had different planes for a long time, but they've now started to introduce this into Dominion 6, which is really exciting. And so what happens is you end up with portals essentially, or entrances, cavern entrances on the surface that will then take you down into the underground layer to then give you access into an underground layer. So in this case, you've got like random, one or more caves of random size. You've got small caves, 4 or more small caves. You've got one massive cave where all of the different portals that come in will end up, we have to end up sort of fighting across the whole underworld. You've got 2 caves, and then you've got like a circle cave, very much like what we have up and through here. So from a base game perspective, you can actually also just have no underground plane at all. You can actually select that one, but by default we have the random caves back and through here. I'll just keep that on for this particular run through, but I wanted to explain what was going on there. But it doesn't finish there. The game itself, even though this is the only way you've got to play these sort of random maps, there can be up to 8 planes of existence. And what's so exciting about this one is that the map makers who start to mod the maps will start to make use of these extra planes and give them themes as well. It's going to be so exciting probably a year in after the game has been released, where there should be a lot of map makers making fairly intricate worlds with themed planes of existence, which I think is just going to be awesome. So I'm really looking forward to seeing how that one does work, and I would imagine that over time the modding abilities of those maps will then be expanded on by Illwinter Games, the actual developer of the game itself. So extremely exciting the way that one actually does work. Just to finish off this part of setting up the maps, number of water provinces, you can just keep that on medium. Like you can sort of go many, few, medium. There's really not much choice you've got in through there. The enable rivers. Now, rivers are interesting. I will actually be doing a series where I talk about not a series, I'm going to be doing a video where I talk about the terrain types, and I'm going to be talking about how rivers affect things. I would leave it on, even if it's, it's everyone has to deal with rivers. Rivers actually will stop movement unless they freeze over. So just be aware of that. But you've got the choice of having them turned on or off. I'm just going to leave them on. Now, to finish off this episode, this doesn't have to be a very big episode, I'm going to show you a little something different. If we just go back and cancel and go back to Tools and Manuals, and we go back down to the Random Map Creator, you've got a map editor in there as well. So a tool to help creating your own maps. Read the mapedit.pdf file if you want to know how to create a new map. This is actually, if you are a map modder, then by all means, read through the PDF. It's actually very, very helpful, and it gives you a lot of information about how intricate you can make your actual own maps. The Random Map Creator back and through here is one that does create a random map. But what's interesting about this is, actually I will talk about, there's even other things I need to talk about with this as well. So if we look at use the blueprint for the landmass layout, you've actually got a system where you can actually go and create a blueprint. So let's just say, for example, I'll just go and grab the sea, or just grab a larger brush. If I start to paint, I'll just create like a circle in the middle here. There we go. I'll just do that. and just get rid of this one. So this would create, for example, a landmass in the middle of what we have. You could also then create like sort of semi-realistic maps. Let's just go back to land. It's very, very simple the way it works. Let's just create like a little skull, a very, very, very crappy little skull. So I'll just go this way. I'll just there we go, something like that. So we'll just click on OK. So this is actually a way of building maps very, very quickly in whatever shape you want. So with that one selected in through there, we can then just go back through and we can change the accuracy, etc., etc. So this one's, you set the like the actual size. I won't go through this in any sort of detail, but we'll just go, I won't do an east-west wraparound, I'll just leave that one where that is. You can create like an underground map for it as well if you wanted to, and just go and create a random map. And it will then just go and create the map in accordance with your blueprint. Hopefully it works okay. We will soon find out. There we go. So if you just press space, you can then hide that particular area. There we go, that's the underground. Oh, sorry, I've only created an underground map. Okay, so anyway, that's just, so this is purely for the underground in this case, and so that would be sort of what would actually end up being in this one. But that's the that essentially is just a way of creating, like if it was an above ground, it would have created like an above ground map in there as well. But it's really, really cool, a really cool way of actually very quickly creating graphics for a map. You can, of course, then just go in and chop and change these types of things. But this is a big improvement from what we've had in the past. So it makes it very, very exciting with the way it sort of does work. So we do actually have little rivers and things running through it as well. Rivers underground rivers running through areas. You can see the little bridges. Anyway, I'm not going to worry too much about that one through there. The other thing I do want to talk about with this is the when you do go into the world creation, there's also now a system where you don't just create like an overworld, which is what we used to have to do because I have built a fair few different maps over the years for Dominion, so I enjoy doing it. But you now have the option to now start to create like what happens if a specific province becomes a water province. So there's going to be terraforming in the game now for the first time. What happens if a province becomes a forest province or a wasteland province because of some event that's occurred? And so it will then change the graphics based on these other maps that you then can go and build. So you can actually ultimately end up building very, very intricate maps where the terrain changes depending on what's actually happened to the game itself. And this is really exciting again for map makers. It means that there's a lot more work to do a really detailed map. But what it also means for players is that there will be terraforming, whether that be done through events or through spells, whatever it might be. But there is that aspect now to really make the game so much more interesting. So anyway, I thought you just leave it there with that one there. But the map settings are fascinating for Dominion 6. For me, I know that a lot of people are really taken by, for example, the fact that you've now got mounts and the riders as two separate entities, and that's exciting for players. For me, this is the most exciting thing: the fact that you've got up to 8 different planes of existence, not just the overworld and the underground. There's the underground and the main world. There's also a nexus world as well, and so those 3 are reserved. But that leaves 5 other planes that map makers can do whatever they like with. So they could be buildings, they could be the inside of massive cities, or it could be anything. Like where you end up with sort of like a way of actually having people fight in a different scale to a degree anyway. So this is really exciting stuff that is sort of going to be coming with the actual map making. I can't wait to see what the map makers will make of it. It's really, really, really exciting. Anyway, guys, I'm going to leave this episode here. Thanks for watching. I will catch you in the next episode.